Hello, everyone. My name is Anae Agostini. I'm CEO of CID Insurance Programs, and I want to welcome you to our webinar today, Running a Successful Commercial Agency. This is really an important subject because we're always so busy doing other things, and it's really important to take time to look at how your agency is doing. So let's get started. Okay. You are muted, but you can definitely ask questions. We want you to be able to speak and ask questions, but just do it in the chat, and then we'll have a short survey that will pop up after the webinar. And again, your voice is important to us. Please give us your feedback. So, what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to be talking about secrets to thriving in difficult economic times, which is really timely, right? Analyzing the condition of your agency operations. And then we're going to look at some sales equation tools for new business and renewal business. And then we're going to learn how to market for new business opportunities. And then last but not least is to explore how to build your agency team, which is really important these days. So let's keep moving. Okay, we're going to start with where we are. Difficult economic times is a contributing factor, and it's really important for us to at least have a conversation about the fact that there are so many things that are having a financial, economic impact on your business. And for those of you that may not own the agency or are here as a producer, I mean, it affects it's a trickle down effect. It affects everything. There's definitely financial uncertainty. The whole distribution system, especially in the insurance world, has been going through a lot of challenges. So partnerships are challenging because you may not be getting the same service that you used to from certain carriers. That's not the case with us, but it has caused challenges. And then shifting customer demands, people's needs are changing. Technology issues have become so much more important and challenging at the same time. And then staffing shortages are an issue that we'll talk about a little bit later in the webinar. So in addition, you've got clients that may be decreasing coverage to save money, or even we're seeing some of them are just going out of business or are unable to they're just letting their policies cancel. So those are other issues. We're out of COVID, but we slammed into inflation, and so here we are with a whole new set of problems that are affecting our businesses. So we have to really look at how to manage through these times. We're also in a hardening insurance market, and so that's creating a lot more labor-intense process to writing insurance, because you're having to rewrite a lot of business that used to be just renewing with one carrier. And it's also the challenge to retain and find and retain great employees. So how do we thrive in this economic environment? Well, I read an article. It was basically a survey that insurance agents, the 2022 survey, and it was just published. And so it reflected ways that agencies are finding to retain their book and grow their book. And so here were some of the feedback that came from some of the insurance agencies that were successfully, weathering this economic downturn. Concentrating on client retention efficiently was one of the biggest things, and a strong focus on renewals, and that can be done by building strong relationships with your clients through excellent service, and then subject matter expertise, basically being an expert at commercial insurance for your clients. Cross-selling your book was one of the keys that was mentioned, that it's an opportunity where new business might be challenging. Cross-selling your book is another way to write new business, and also to protect you from an E&O standpoint, because you need to always annually be offering the insurance coverages that they need, that your insured could have a potential exposure, because you never know when they're going to have a loss and you haven't offered that insurance. And then being empathetic with your clients. We're all in the same boat together, so it becomes, important that we know we share and be empathetic with how they feel and how they're weathering this whole downturn. And then look for ways to trim insurance costs for your clients. That's not always easy, because in a hard market, all prices are going up. But you being a good communicator about what you can and can't do with your clients, and trying to do the best for them will go a long way. So let's start to dig into analyzing. We're going to take a little time here and talk about analyzing your book of business, because that's the first place to start. And I call it the balancing act, and then maybe where is your book top heavy? So most insurance agencies, whether you're a captive like a farmer's agent or an independent, most of them start usually with personal lines. That's where you get your start, and then you start writing some life, and some never go into commercial, and then some start to dabble in commercial. But ideally, commercial. Where's your book going to be the most profitable? So let's go on to the next slide, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. So, where are you and your team spending most of your time? So, if there are our triangle had commercial, life, and personal lines. Well, in reality, most of your time is going to be spent in personal lines, especially if you're heavy in personal lines, because it's a very service-oriented business, and it's very personal, because you're dealing with people's personal assets, and it's not business to business. So you're going to spend a lot more time on service, whereas commercial becomes a really great way, because most of the time, unless you're writing a lot of contractors, which that can cause a lot of service-related issues, but most of the time, commercial is going to only has to be touched once a year. And we'll talk more about this, but I think it's important for you to take a look at where you're spending most of your time, and then shift your focus to potentially where I would go would be to shift your focus to commercial, where you have that opportunity to have to be more profitable and have less labor expensed, and you'll have more time for new business. You also want to analyze your renewal process and customer service efficiency. Do you have a system in place for that? We will talk more about that as we go. And then let's evaluate your agency operational systems. So systems, are we systematic about the way you handle renewals and consistent and through a process, or are you just winging it, and it's not a system followed by your staff and yourself? Systems are really crucial to the success of an insurance agency, especially for profitability. Do you have a plan for new business production? Well, yeah, don't forget about new business because you can work really hard on your renewals, but unless you're writing new business, you are going to lose some of your renewals. So you have to be, in order to grow, you have to be writing new business production. Do you measure your results on an ongoing basis? Well, that you really don't know how you're doing unless you're measuring your results. So that's something to take a look at. I've got some tools that we'll talk about as we go, and that will help you better understand this. First, I'm going to give you one simple tool. It's you could write this any way you want, but there's basically three parts to it that have to be paid attention in order to make sales. And this is sort of like this can be done for new business and renewals because it's a process. We call this the sales equation, and it's a systematic way of paying attention to how that whole process needs to be handled in order to actually renew a policy or write a new business. So for new business, you're going to be doing X dating, right? You're going to be looking for businesses that have an expiration date that you can put in your little add it to your prospect sheet, and then when it comes up for to renew, you're going to make a presentation to them, and then you always have to close your sale, and then that's usually those three things combined are what consistently will allow you to be renewing your policies and writing new business policies. Here's another agency system. Manage your new business weekly, okay? Manage your renewals monthly. So you've got an example of a calendar here. So let's talk first about new business. And by the way, Outlook, I think you can turn on your week numbers in Outlook, and so you can see what week you're in at any given time. We manage our new business by week because you get 52 start dates. You don't wait a month and then go 2 weeks into the following month before you figure out that you didn't have a good month. It's better to be looking at it weekly to see how your production is going. So it's highly recommended that you manage your new business weekly and sort of hold yourself accountable for, setting a goal and meeting that goal, and at least being in reality whether you whether you are reaching your goal or not. There is a question: what are the standard agency forms that every client should sign before or after binding coverage? I'm going to hold off on that one until I get a little further down, and then I'll be able to answer that for you. So the end of the month production is this is a system for managing renewals, and that's going to be done monthly. And you may be working on 3 months at a time because you're finishing up a month, you're starting a new month, and then you might even be starting getting ahead in the month because most of the time you're trying to work a renewal at least 60 days out, sometimes 90, and so you'll be working various months. Should be done by expiration date by month, and so that you're able to monitor renewals, and then you want to make sure that you're tracking each policy to make sure that it's renewed. But that is a monthly process so that you are able to see at the end of the month how you did with your renewals. Sometimes it goes into the following month because you've got the tail end of the month to close it out. Okay. So I'm going to go through this slide, and then we'll go through. I'll answer that question. Production goals and book management recommendations. You want to be able to establish realistic goals for new business production. As I mentioned when I was talking about managing your new business production by week, you're able to see more often how well you're doing. But you need to set a goal, and you need to be able to look at it. Helps to be able to look at your retention in order to see how much you are losing out the back end. And that's, strictly the amount of business that you're losing, subtracted from your book of renewals, and then establishing a percentage of how much you've retained of your renewal book. And that helps you know where that goal for new business needs to be established. I'd also look at production and percentage of goals for agency lines of insurance. As we talked about, do you want to write more personal lines, or do you want to write more commercial? Again, I recommend commercial because it's less service oriented, and so your labor gets reduced, and it's business to business. It's not so personal. So so writing commercial, I think, is the way to go here. But you need to establish that, and not just be you. And you need to aggressively go after it in order to not have things just coming in the door and that are taking up your time and aren't necessarily going to be good production for your agency long term. Also, you want to grow your book of business, and in general, you have to decide what lines of business or insurance that you want to be focusing that growth on. But PIF is policy in force. That is another way to establish whether you are growing, because your PIF needs to grow in order to grow as grow your book. And then think about the premium size of your a commercial book. Do we have a balance? Do we have, you're always going to get the small premium policies, small Main Street America coming to you. But then, being able to write policies that are a little bit bigger, the $5,000 to $25,000 range, is a really great opportunity to build your book and balance it out and grow it faster. And in many cases, the renewals take the same amount of time, except for you really have to work hard to keep those bigger premium policies, because they when you lose them, it hurts. But you really want to have a balanced premium size of your commercial book. So let's talk about commercial marketing. You have to have a strategy and put it to work. Well, let's just say, for example, you've decided that you're going to shift your focus from personal lines to commercial, and so that's where you really need to develop a strategy. What class of business are you going to go after? You're going to need to establish weekly sales goals for new business premium, and then as you start to mingle and get out there and meet potential commercial prospects, you're going to want to create an electric filing system for your new business leads. You could do it on an Excel spreadsheet where you're just tracking by expiration date that the client, and then you can create little files in a main folder where you're actually creating a risk profile on each of those prospects. If you're able to get their deck page, their declaration page, and you're able to see what their insurance needs, you start building a file on them, and then when you're 10 weeks prior to that X date, you want to start working that profile and gather the information needed to provide insurance proposals for them. And we call it proposals, not quotes, because it's harder for it's much more professional rather than saying I'm going to get you a quote. Then make contacts, data mine, and follow the sales equation. That's really, really important. So how are you going to go out there and um, kickstart your commercial marketing strategy? This is the basics of it, and this is where we want less labor, so you have more time to spend on new business. Get involved with business councils and local associations. You want to hold information sessions at events and meetings. These things really do work. You just have to get involved and not be afraid to get out there and talk with local business orgs. There's lots of organizations that you could participate in, or again, certain classes of business have their own associations, and you can join up, and it's a great way to meet a lot of people in the same kind of business, and you can write a lot of that. You could actively participate in local events, so that in your community, sponsor local events in target industries, as I just mentioned. And being a sponsor at some of these events is a great idea as well, because you get your name out there and you get a chance. Okay, so I'm going to take a minute and answer a couple of questions here. So I have one. I think I have two here. Okay. So first one was, what are the standard agency forms that every client should sign before or after binding coverage? Well, that's a challenging question. Most of the time, and maybe not all the time, because there is such a thing as automatic renewals. But if you're usually there's an application that needs to be signed in order to bind. I always recommend, if you're charging a broker fee, to use a broker fee agreement and have them sign that, disclosing that you've charged the fee. And there's some release of liability. There's a sample of one that you could use on our website under templates, broker tools and templates. And so that's an important piece. And frankly, all of the things that you would need for binding should be always listed in any quote that we would send you would have all of subject to prior to binding, so that it would list out everything that you do need. So we make it really easy and clear, and you just have to go down that list and put it all together before binding the coverage. And there was also a question here: how to attract producers, salesmen, and women? Okay, that's a good question. I'm gonna address that, because I think my last slide or close to it will address that as well. So hold on to that question, and I will come back to it. Okay, so we've talked about sponsoring and some marketing strategies. Let me just get over here. Okay, so let's talk. I'm going to take a minute. We've been talking about new business. Let's talk about, you get this new business on the books and they become renewals, or your existing book is a renewal. It's full of renewals, right? You want to treat commercial renewals like new business. It's the one time they're such low maintenance that it's the one time during the year that you would need to touch them, and you need to touch them and make them feel good, right? So they're not going to look away, or when the other person comes knocking, the other broker comes knocking on the door, they have a loyalty to you that they don't want to leave. So treat them like that. You want to manage those renewals by a monthly expiration list. That's going to be another system that's going to be important, as I showed you on the other slide. And then calculate your retention and lapse ratios monthly. So you want to know, as I did mention, is you want to know how you're doing with your retention. Are you retaining 95%? Are you retaining 90%? Are you retaining 85%? You need to know. And then that helps you set the goal for new business that you need to will need to write in order to continue growing your commercial book. managing policy audits to prevent non-renewals is really important. We need you to be part of the process. Excuse me, for policy audits because you're the front line, and so we will always keep you informed with audits. But that's the easiest way to lose a perfectly good renewal because, of course, insurers are always going to want to put off performing the audit that's required by a policy renewal. So, and then also, perfect time to ask for referrals at the time of each renewal. And again, that cross-selling is a really important idea at each renewal. And then asking for like a referral, another business that they know really well that they would recommend you to. So these are all great ways to manage your commercial book. So I'm going to go back to that question now. Building your agency team, and there's been just such a COVID basically created a disaster with employment for and then the economic downturn with inflation has just supply chain issues. It's just really everything's compounded, and I think small business owners are at the losing end of all of this, and so finding good people is really important, but can be a challenge. And then once you've found those people, you have to be paying attention to the things that are important to keep them motivated and to keep them wanting to do a great job for you. And part of that is training them and motivating your team on a regular basis, consistently, and helping them continue to grow. It's not just you get them trained and then you just put them in their job and that's the tail. That's the end of it. You have to keep molding them as if they're going to have a career in your company. So how do you attract these people? Well, we took a different philosophy in our company, and we have career employees that are full time, and then we have probably 5 or 6 that are college students, and so we happen to be near, but there's like colleges everywhere. We're in San Diego, and we have to be near San Diego State, and so we've been doing this for like 25 years. We hire part-time college students early in their degree, and then have them work for our company while they're in school. And it's been a very successful. You could get some bright, hungry kids that are wanting to learn about business, and they do a phenomenal job if you're careful in your hiring practices to make sure that you get the right attitude and self-motivated employee. And when they graduate from college, we've been using this system as a recruiting tool. If they're a good fit and the right candidate, sometimes their degree is in something else and it's not going to be a good fit. But in general, we brought most of our team on board as college graduates, which is a super great way for us. It's been a really healthy environment for us, and it's something to consider because these kids are hungry. They're getting, their brains are really moldable, and we just find it. If you train them, we have a very good training program, and it's an ongoing training program because you have to, once they learn their job, well, they're hungry to learn more, and so that's our job as employers to make sure that we're feeding that hunger. So, achieving the results. We need to streamline your operations. and develop those systems that I'm talking about. It's really important. And again, you can manage by systems. That's a great thing is you can if you're using the systems, then you can always be able to tell how you're doing because you've got a system to monitor it by. And then it's establishing a marketing production plan and budget. And then you want to build that agency team. And then again, don't forget to manage your production results. It's really important for both renewals and new business production. So, just a little bit about CID. If you haven't been to our website, we have a lot of broker tools. We've just really created a website that's designed for you to help you. And so we've got everything from all kinds of proposal templates because there's so many different types of commercial businesses that you actually need something that can be customized to maybe a garage or maybe a professional technology professional or other types of businesses. And so we've got a lot of different proposal templates. You can just download them, they're Word documents, and make them your own. And the area that's pinked is the area that you would just fill in the template as you go and then save to that insurance name. Excuse me. We also have all of our applications are on our website. We've got marketing flyers for you that you can put your information on. And if that's a great way to cross-sell at renewals, especially for workers' comp, for cyber liability, employment practices liability, another important one. And then don't forget, you're attending a webinar right now, but we've got lots of recorded webinars that you can go watch on different types of coverages, commercial coverages, and classes of business. And then you can see our upcoming webinars because we're always trying, every year we will redo our webinars and improve them. So, and again, your feedback is really important to us, so please take that survey at the end. So how can we help you? Well, our underwriters are very experienced, very responsive. We answer our phones, we answer our emails, and they're extremely knowledgeable. So even if you have just a question whether we could take on a risk for you and quote it for you, then they'll get right back to you when you can. We're ready to take in your applications as submissions at CIDinsurance.com. And then let's take a quick look here. And I think I need you over here. Oops. There we go. Here's some of you had asked what types of classes of business that we do offer. And we specialize a lot in so this is Michelle's all of her products, and she's really doing a lot. We're getting a lot of submissions, and she's doing well with apartments, HOAs, lesser's risk, and all types of nonprofits. Teresa it writes a lot of garage and contractors, and we do really well with convenience and grocery stores. So sometimes those markets are harder to find a carrier or market for, and so please think of us in those areas. But it's a very broad appetite that we have. And then Lexi handles our professional, and we're doing a lot with allied health, which is like home health care agencies. She writes a lot of consultants and a variety of professionals, attorneys, real estate agents, and then media marketing agencies is a really, since COVID, it's really gotten really big. Technology in general has gotten really big. So submit your technology risk to Lexi. And then we do a really good job in workers' comp as well. Darby is really good with. She writes a lot of contractors, homeowners associations, restaurants, and retail stores. But our appetite is very broad here as well. Now, uh, Jacob is going to send this out to you, so you will receive a copy of this. So feel free to contact each underwriter because you'll see their email address is there at the bottom of the page. So I want to thank you for joining us, and reach out to our underwriters with any new business that you have. Thanks for joining us today.